Well, hello and welcome, and thank you for your interest in this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York, covering the time period from 2011 all the way back to 1963 when the group was established. This is segment 3 of the part that covers the years 2010 back to 1963. The documentary actually consists of 2 parts. The part we're going to look at now covers the time from October 2010 back to December 1963. And the other part covers the time from November 2010 through December 2011. And we'd invite you to look at that also. There are 7 segments in this part of the documentary that covers the time from October 2010 back to December 1963 when the group was established. Segment 1 includes the introduction and an overview. And then segments 2, 3, and 4 contain information about the presidencies and in many cases interviews with the people who were the presidents or LocSecs during those time periods. Segment 2 covers the presidents from 2011 to 2006. And segment 3, the one we're going to look at now, includes the presidents from 2006 to 1993. And segment 4, the presidents or LocSecs from 1993 to 1963. Segment 5 includes information about other positions in the group and some of the other noteworthy members, both past and present. Segment 6 includes information about many of the events of the group and also the communications used in the group. Mostly the communications were newsletters until the digital media came available. There's also information about American Mensa and the Mensa Education and Research Foundation, just in case anyone is not totally familiar with them. Also, there are references in segment 6. The references were used in the research and preparation of the documentation. Segment 7 includes the methodology that was used in research and preparation of the documentary. The author considers this very important because it shows the authenticity of the contents of the documentary. Also, segment 7 includes acknowledgments to the many, many people who contributed either to the research or to the preparation or both of the documentary. It also focuses on the heritage of Mensa of Northeastern New York and includes the reflections by the author after having completed the research and documentation. There's also part of the documentary that covers the years from 2010 to 2011, and we invite you to look at some of the segments of that part also. So now let us begin with a welcome by President Rob Salkin.
Hi, my name is Rob Salkin. I'm the president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Welcome to the first 46 of 48 years of the history of Mensa of Northeastern New York, as put together in a documentary form by Leo Kellogg. There's also a second part, which covers my term in office, beginning on November 1st, 2010. Enjoy and keep in touch.
The title of the lead position, that is the Chief Executive Officer of Mensa of Northeastern New York, from the present back to November 1, 1996, is and has been President. Prior to that, from October 31, 1996, back to December of 1963, when the group was established, the title of the position was LocSec, which is short for Local Secretary. At this point, I'm going to just read the listing of presidents and LocSecs, because after this we'll have an individual slide for each one of them. Rob Salkin began as president on November 1, 2010. Prior to that, Andrew Heffernan, Leo Kellogg, Judy Keating, Richard Rakowski, Ron Norris, Joe Manuel, Dick Pansel, and the title of the lead position changed from LocSec to president on November 1, 1996, the same day that Dick Pansel began as president. Prior to that, there was Katrina Lebrun, and prior to Katrina, there was Dar Novak, Peg Shambo, Dar Novak on his first term in office, Marty Berman, Roy Schneider. And it was while Roy was the LocSec that the name of the group was changed to Mensa of Northeastern New York from the previous name of Capital District Mensa. Prior to Roy, Dick Boone, Willard Hoyt, and Joe Manuel. And Joe started the group in 1963. Judy Keating was the 14th president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. She was president from 2002 to 2006, which is actually 2 consecutive terms. When she started as president, she expressed her hope that Mensa would give opportunities to the members to appreciate their uniqueness and to enhance the quality of their lives. Judy understands Mensa very well. She was a member of the St. Louis area Mensa Group, and she was also a member of the Boston Mensa Group. It was while she was in Boston that she met and married her husband, Harry Ringermacher. Judy has held almost all of the positions in Mensa of Northeastern New York, and as of 2011, she was the vice president. It was while Judy was president that in 2006 she was co-chair of the colloquium that is held by the Mensa Education and Research Foundation. In 2006, the name of it was Revolution in Cosmology. There is no question that Judy Keating is a Mensan par excellence.
Hello, Judy Ringemacher. You joined Mensa in February of 1996, and in just 4 years you were president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. And I think you've been in other Mensa groups before you came here, and you've held various offices since you've been in Mensa of Northeastern New York. Would you give us some idea about the offices you've held?
Well, I joined Mensa when I lived in St. Louis, and I was only a member there for a few months before I moved to Boston. The St. Louis group was a wonderful bunch of people, as was the Boston group. In Boston, I volunteered to be an area coordinator. That's a group of, I think, at least 800 members, much smaller than Mensa of Northeastern New York. Then I met Harry Ringelmacher and married him and relocated to this part of the country near Albany, New York, and joined Mensa of Northeastern New York. It's a smaller group, and I've just enjoyed a lot of roles in the organization. Besides the colloquium and being president, I've been vice president and editor, and I think treasurer. Yeah, treasurer for a while. And I do it because it's it's good for the group, it's rewarding for me to do it, and I like keeping this group moving.
And now you're vice president for a second time. Well, that's very good. On the colloquium that you mentioned, held in 1996, would you give us just a couple of words about what was the focus of that? Was that on cosmology or what?
Yes, Harry was the visionary, Harry Ringemacher, and I was sort of the business manager of putting that together. It was a revolution in cosmology. We brought in world-known speakers over a 3-day event in Albany. The event was a sellout, very successful. More people wanted to come than we had room to accommodate. And it set the bar for the colloquiums moving forward.
Very good. Judy, what were some of the other kinds of events that took place while you were the president?
Well, one event that I hosted was a newcomers dinner once a month at a restaurant. I think that's a good thing. Some people are a little nervous to walk into a crowd of strangers the first time. So that did bring people out that felt a little more comfortable saying, okay, people we haven't met before, come on and meet us.
Judy, was there testing, Mensa admission testing while you were the president?
Yes, the testing is always a challenge, I think, for every group. We also had the Mensa Testing Day, which is now, well, it was called National Testing Day. Now it's Mensa Testing Month, I believe. And over the years, that's been interesting. One year we invested money and a lot of time sending out mailings to prospects and got a good number of people to turn out. Other years it's been a little less involved. Sometimes we get our members, send them each a poster to put up to get people to come and take the test.
With respect to Mensa as a group, Judy, you've seen many changes. You've been involved for quite a number of times. Looking to the future, what do you hope that Mensa will be, Mensa of Northeastern New York will be in the coming years?
Well, this question brings to mind one event. I used to host a lunch, and I got a call from a new member who was interested in meeting other Mensa members for the first time. And it happened to be a day that a blizzard was predicted, and I was working pretty far away from Albany and Schenectady at the time. So when I talked to her, it turns out she lived in that same small town of Johnstown, and we ended up meeting for lunch just that day because I didn't want to risk the long drive in a blizzard. And I said, the thing about Mensa is you're not going to like everybody you meet, but the percentage of people that you get along with just seems to be higher than other occasions to meet new people. And I said, and occasionally you'll just find a kindred spirit here.
Rich Rutkowski is and has been very active in Mensa of Northeastern New York. He became president in the year 2000, but he had already been active a decade before that. From 1986 until 1990, he had been the editor of the newsletter of Mensa of Northeastern New York. And then again in 1998, he became the editor again. And even though he was elected president in the year 2000, he continued as editor for another year. When Rich began his presidency, he had at least 7 events per month that included at least one event every week. Now, one of the events they had was called Sing for Your Supper. And this was typically a dinner meeting where they had a scheduled speaker. It was while Rich was president in May of 2001 that it was announced that Mensa of Northeastern New York had a website. And that was the first month in which it was announced that it had been created. And in November of 2001, Rich gave focus to it. Also that he was using an email distribution list to get the news out. In November of 2001, Rich announced that he had appointed a member of the group to be a gifted children coordinator. This was a major appointment to an important position. So Rich has been very active in Mensa of Northeastern New York for 3 decades.
Hello, Rich Rikowski.
Hi, Leo.
Rich, you've been a Mensan for quite a while, and you're a member of Mensa of Northeastern New York. How long have you been a Mensan?
Well, I first joined around the early 1970s. I've been aware of Mensa since I was in my early teens, which goes back to the early 1960s. Of course, never dreamt that I could possibly be a member. And it wasn't until the early 1970s that I realized I even qualified for membership. And then I ran right down to Brighton Beach, where Margot Seidemann had the office, and showed her my little credential. And then she said, "Welcome." And that was it.
Very interesting. And you knew Margot Seidemann is extraordinary. Very nice.
Only met her a couple times.
Rich, you were president of Mensa Northeastern New York. What was your what did you do while you were the president? What did you enjoy most?
Enjoyed meeting a lot of the members that I never had before. I became president probably the way that I would imagine, and I have heard many other people around the various groups of Mensa become president, and that is because nobody else would really step up to the plate. And that's exactly what I did. I volunteered to do something that they could not find any takers for.
Well, Rich, I know that while you were president, you did a wonderful job, and that you kept people motivated while you were the president. You drew upon the advice of past presidents, and you drew new members in to do anything, to do something. And was there any particular event during your term that you enjoyed the most?
Actually, it was even before I became president. Working with Ron Norris was actually the one who really showed me the ropes. He actually introduced a lot of the what I felt was innovations in getting members in. I just kept on with what his philosophy was and tried to talk members into contributing a little more and not feeling that their input was not desired. It certainly was, still is, it probably always will be.
Rich, now that you've been a member and you are a past president, what do you plan to do next within the Mensa of Northeastern New York?
Well, once again, through lack of any other volunteers coming along, the position of editor for Money is going to become vacant, and I'm going to start that up again starting in December of this year, 2011.
Well, thank you, Rich. And Moni is the name of the newsletter of Mensa of Northeastern New York. You were the editor before, and I'm sure you'll do it again. Very well. Thank you, Rich. Ron Norris was the 12th president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. His term was from 1998 to 2000. He had joined Mensa while in Columbus, Ohio in about 1984, and he moved to Troy, New York in about 1994. Attended many events in the local group, but also in the neighboring Mensa groups. And also he liked to attend regional gatherings. In 1997, he became the editor of the newsletter of Mensa of Northeastern New York, and then he was president from 1998 to 2000, and during that time, the typical events Mensa events were dinner at El Presidente's in his Troy backyard. They also had weekly bar nights and also member appreciation nights. Ron liked to call himself El Presidente while he was president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. And also in the summer they had picnics. Ron was proud of the participation rate of Mensas in the group while he was president. Afterwards, he moved to Rhode Island, and he met Lori at a Mensa event, and then he married Lori. Ron is now, as of 2011, the president of Rhode Island Mensa, also their program chair and a proctor. And Lori was the regional vice chair of American Mensa Region 1 through October 31, 2011. They attend almost all local Mensa events and regularly participate in Mensa events in neighboring states, as well as well over 100 regional gatherings they've attended and several annual gatherings in the United States, Canada, and the Czech Republic. Ron and Lori are certainly thoroughly Mensans. Ron, you were president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. How did you get to be president, and what was your objective?
Well, I started off being a member that didn't really do much. I mean, I went to events, but I didn't actually volunteer my time. When I moved to Albany, I got to know the then president, Joe Manuel, who talked me into being calendar editor. Well, that certainly turned into newsletter editor, and that suddenly turned into president. I can't say I had a lot of goals, except to do a lot of fun stuff. We started doing bar nights every week. We started doing, well, what we called dinner at El Presidente's in my backyard in Troy. My backyard in Troy wasn't the nicest neighborhood in the world, but it was a fun place. Sometimes it'd be, 3 or 4 of us. Sometimes it'd be 24 of us. And we'd throw something on the grill. We'd have a good time. We really enjoyed ourselves. I know I did. And so in retrospect, I think the happiest times there were at those little almost impromptu meetings.
Ron, 2 more questions. One is, when you were the president, did you have approximately the same conditions for recruiting new members? Were there scheduled testings, or did they come about as the candidates needed to be tested?
Well, we had scheduled testings regularly, I'd say monthly. Mary Beth Farr was our proctor coordinator at that time, and later our vice president, and I think she became president at some point soon after I left. That was when they started the Mensa Testing Day big in November, and we had a big presence there. We had articles in the newspapers and that sort of thing. I don't think it was any different than what it is now. We just test, push our names. As more and more of us came out of the closet and invited friends to our various functions, we found that we were growing quite a bit.
Ron, you're in a real Mensa family. Your wife Lori is just finished being a regional chair. Do you have any elaboration you'd like to tell us about how you became a Mensa family?
Well, I met Lori at an RG actually in Boston, 1999, I believe. She's not going to see this to be able to say if I'm on the wrong year. Well, maybe she will, but something like that. And we knew each other through mutual friends and whatnot. And one thing led to another, and we ended up getting married on our way to another RG a couple of years later. We, between us, we've been to well over 200 regional gatherings. We've had all the offices available between here and Rhode Island, and done a lot of Mensa stuff.
Well, thank you, Ryan.
Joe Manuel is Mr. Money. Joe had the lead position in this group as the first person and also the 11th person to be in the lead position. We'll have more to say further down the line about his starting the group. At that point, the position was called LocSecs, but in November of 1997, the name of the position was changed to president, and Joe was the vice president at that time. But then Dick Panzel, his predecessor, who was the only person to die in office, did expire, and Joe automatically became the president. And Joe is one of only two people who ever served twice in the lead position. Dar Novak is the other person. And Joe served out the term until the next election. Dick Panzel became the 10th president of Mensa of Northeastern New York on November 1, 1996. That was the same day that the title of this lead position was changed from LocSec to president. The bylaws had been approved before, and so the change took place on the same day that he took the office. And also at that time, the term of office was changed from 1 year to 2 years. And in the same bylaw change, the name of the office of treasurer was changed to secretary-treasurer. Dick is the only person to die in office as president. It was at a time when Dick was present at an event with, and Willard Hoyt was here, who is still active in the group. Willard offered to drive him to the doctor, but Dick declined. Someone else drove him. And at that doctor visit, he was diagnosed to have a brain tumor. The experience that Dick had before coming into Mensa was extraordinary for the time. In addition to being a member of Mensa, Dick also was a member of Intertel. The qualifications for membership in Intertel is to have an IQ test result in the top 1% instead of Mensa in the top 2%. During World War II, Dick was a bomber pilot, and he flew 24 combat missions in the Pacific Theater. One of them was over Nagasaki within 24 hours after the second atomic bomb had been dropped there. Dick told some other Mensa members that the difference between flying over the target before the atomic bomb was dropped and then after that it was dropped was that afterwards the fighter pilots, the fighters, never came up anymore to shoot down the bombers.
Katrina Lebrun was the 9th LocSec of Mensa of Northeastern New York. She was in office from 1993 until 1996, and she was an electrician by trade and also a member of the Electricians Union. And while she was LocSec, the typical kinds of events were monthly gatherings at local restaurants, and one of them was called Poets, P-O-E-T-S, night, which came to be known as Put Off Everything, Tomorrow Saturday. That was held in Malta. There was also the Tri-City Weekend Bunch Business Meeting in Latham, the Chat and Chew at the East Greenbush Diner. The Hobson Watson in Troy was another place, and out to lunch in Colony. And in the summer they had a picnic on Loch 7 on the Mohawk River. And it was while Katrina was in Mensa of Northeastern New York that she met Bob Kidder. And Bob had been an editor and also a membership officer. And Bob and Katrina married, and in 1997 they moved to Ohio and are members of the Dayton area Mensa Group at this time.
Well, this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York was prepared by Leo A. Kellogg, who was the first ever historian of Mensa of Northeastern New York. The documentary is copyrighted for and by Mensa of Northeastern New York, and all rights are reserved. Well, here's a listing of all the segments of the 2010 to 1963 part of the documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York. When you're done looking at this summary, just go ahead and shut off your video. And we thank you again for your interest in this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York. Other positions in the group and some of the other noteworthy members, both past and present. Segment 6 includes information about many of the events of the group and also the communications used in the group. Mostly the communications were newsletters until the digital media came available. There's also information about American Mensa and the Mensa Education and Research Foundation, just in case anyone is not totally familiar with them. Also, there are references in Segment 6. The references were used in the research and preparation of the documentation. Segment 7 includes the methodology that was used in research and preparation of the documentary. The author considers this very important because it segments in this part of the documentary that covers the time from October 2010 back to December 1963 when the group was established. Segment 1 includes the introduction and an overview. And then segments 2, 3, and 4 contain information about the presidencies and in many cases interviews with the people who were the presidents or LocSecs during those time periods. Segment 2 covers the presidents from 2011 to 2006. And Segment 3, the one we're going to look at now, includes the presidents from 2006 to 1993, and segment 4, the presidents or LocSecs from 1993 to 1963. Segment 5 includes information about...
I'm the president of Mensa of Northeastern New York. Welcome to the first 46 of 48 years of the history of Mensa of Northeastern New York, as put together in a documentary form by Leo Kellogg. There's also a second part, which covers my term in office, beginning on November 1st, 2010. Enjoy and keep in touch.
The title of the lead position, that is the Chief Executive Officer of Mensa of Northeastern New York, from the present back to November 1, 1996, is and has been President. Prior to that, from October 31, 1996, back to December of 1963, when the group was established, the title of the position was LocSec, which is short, shows the authenticity of the contents of the documentary. Also, segment 7 includes acknowledgments to the many, many people who contributed either to the research or to the preparation, or both, of the documentary. It also focuses on the heritage of Mensa of Northeastern New York and includes the reflections by the author after having completed the research and documentation. There's also part of the documentary that covers the years from 2010 to 2011, and we invite you to look at some of the segments of that part also. So now let us begin with a welcome by President Rob Salkin.
Hi, my name is Rob Salkin.
Well, hello and welcome, and thank you for your interest in this documentary about Mensa of Northeastern New York, covering the time period from 2011 all the way back to 1963 when the group was established. This is segment 3 of the part that covers the years 2010 back to 1963. The documentary actually consists of 2 parts. The part we're going to look at now covers the time from October 2010 back to December 1963. And the other part covers the time from November 2010 through December 2011. And we'd invite you to look at that also. There are 7